17 years ago, in our Trinity class with Dr. Jake Yap, I was one of his first students in LST. He asked us one day, to which person of the Trinity did you pray today? I hope Doc Jake remembers that. He asked us by a show of hands, who prayed to the Father, who prayed to the Son, and who prayed to the Spirit? Perhaps you won't be surprised to know that more hands were raised for the Father and the Son. Very few hands were raised for the Spirit. We were a class of mostly seminarians and religious. I would ask the same question in my own ministry, in classes, recollections, retreats, workshops, attended by a mix of lay, religious, seminarians, even clergy. To which person of the Trinity did you pray today? Or yesterday? Or the day before? Or in your most spontaneous prayers during the day, even your sighs that at times serve as your most heartfelt prayer of the day, whom did you address? Which person of the Trinity did you have in mind? Not surprisingly, the hands raised among my audience show results practically no different from Dr. Jake's class. Father and Son, sikat talaga. Spirit, hindi ganun kasikat talaga. Among the three persons in the Trinity, the third person is the least named, least recognized, least appreciated. But like a faithful, constant, loving friend, the Spirit continues to stand by us, gracing us with all His gifts, her gifts, despite not being recognized, despite not being appreciated. And you, to which person did you pray today? In our gospel reading today from John, Jesus is in his final conversation with his disciples before his passion and death. Jesus names, recognizes, and proclaims the Spirit and instructs them about the important work of the Spirit. Jesus, the helper in human history, is about to go. Jesus tells them that the helper of human hearts comes to continue his saving work. He says, but when he comes, the Spirit of truth, he will guide you to all truth. He will not speak on his own, but he will speak what he hears and will declare to you the things that are coming. This, my brothers and sisters, is the assurance we are given. Someone is sent to us by the Father through Jesus, as we love and follow Jesus and keep his commandments. This someone who is a quiet, reassuring, hope-filling, life-giving presence and power in our lives. The Spirit of truth, who remains with us and will always be in us. The Holy Spirit, who is a sure sign that the Lord does not leave us, but continues to be present to us, to guide and lead, to empower and encourage, to sustain and build up the church as individual persons and as a community of faith, seeking and striving to be what God calls us to be. In sacred scriptures and sacred tradition, we see and identify the Spirit as breath and fire, wind and light, life and love, wisdom and power, gift and consolation. Yan, just giving you a reminder about what you've heard in lectures. The Spirit is friend and consoler, comforter and inspirer, revealer and sanctifier. In our lives, the Spirit is one known to unlock closed doors, one who unfreezes hearts, heals and opens and frees our frightened, paralyzed souls, filling and touching us with great courage, energy, enthusiasm amid fear, uncertainty, confusion, despair, darkness, and even many times amid our many forms of resistances which make us not see and sense God's workings in our lives. It is the Spirit who inspires prayer and good desires in us. The Spirit quietly works its gentle ways, teaching us God's ways, lovingly nudging us to greater freedom. As Pope Francis says, because God's style is discreet, God likes to go unseen with discretion. He does not impose himself. He's like the air we breathe. We do not see, but it allows us to live. and we realize this only when it is missing. Ways that are discreet, unseen, subtle, very often unrecognized. This reminds me of an experience very recently when I had the chance to visit Pamulaan, a school in Marilog, Davao, founded by an ex-Jesuit classmate, catering to the education of the Lumad from different tribes in the area, many of them from the Matigsalo group. The graduation ceremony included indigenous rituals. I was especially struck how the gathering place was naturally arranged. It was in a circle. I asked around from some of the Matigsalog people. They were explaining that this is done the way they would usually do it. All the community gatherings are done always in a circle, so that those present could listen well and could be listened to as well, facing one another as fellow humans, as companions on the journey. Even as their tribal leaders make decisions, a lot of deep listening and working and partnering together takes place. And yet, they have not been schooled in the synodal process. They have not attended any of these orientation sessions. Even in the ways of old, in the wisdom of our traditional elders, the people of the land, the Spirit is present, so present as wisdom, as light, as guide, as revealer of truth. Very much like the hidden, unnamed God in the first reading from Acts, when Paul finally tells the Athenians, "What therefore you unknowingly worship, I proclaim to you, for in him we live and move and have our being." My dear friends, the challenge for us is to pay attention, to notice the Spirit's work in our lives, both communal and individual, and to make this more known and appreciated by all so that we can all respond lovingly accordingly. This has always been Pope Francis's call and challenge to us from the very start of his pontificate, for all of us to learn discernment as a church, not simply as a skill, but as a way of life that recognizes the Spirit's movements in our hearts and in history, leading us to human flourishing and growth in God. Discernment, Pope Francis says, is the aid in recognizing the signals with which the Lord makes himself known in unexpected, even unpleasant situations, as the wounded leg of Ignatius. A life-changing encounter can arise from them forever, as in the case of Ignatius. Dear friends, especially our graduates, we hope that at the end of your years in LST, you have grown to be women and men of discernment, so that attuned to the Spirit, you will serve as ministers and pastors attuned to the mind and heart of our God.